And we are live for another week of Business as Usual with Deborah R. Nelson. I'm going to go ahead and take a moment and make this video public so that our guest today can share it with his family and friends. It's public now. So, while Brandon is doing that, I'm super excited for this guest. He's all the way from Texas. So shout out to the Texas area central time zone. So Brandon White right now, I'm just completely amazed at all that he is doing, all that his business is doing. And like, where do I start? Brandon White is a business owner. He's in the military. He has a full-time career corporate. He's a father, and he's also a husband. So 5 hats. And we were talking about this the other day, and I was like trying to count on my hand, like how many hats you actually wear. But today we're going to mostly talk about how you started this business, BienVenue Events, space in Texas. And I just even watch you lay the bricks and build this business from scratch. So many people, right, they think about stepping out on faith and starting their business, but they're like, but I'm a husband, but I'm a father, and I have a career, and I just don't have time. And can you just tell us what made you get started? Why did you start this event space? And how do you balance it all?
And can you just... Sorry about that. Yeah. I mean, I've always been a person that strives to do the best that I can do with the God-given abilities that I've been given. And so, one thing I know, especially for the Black community, is we have a hill to climb. And I know from an economic standpoint, entrepreneurship is the best way to climb that hill. And in my personal opinion, in order to see things that we'd like to see happen for us in the future. So I've always been somebody that looks at ways to climb that hill and challenge myself. I think I've been very blessed and fortunate to be put in places that not everyone has the chance to be put in. And so, yeah, I mean, because of that, I'm going to continue to strive to do that for me and my family and our community.
I love that. So, your main focus is generational wealth, doing this for your family so that you can pass it along. So with you having so many hats, right? When did you find time to start this business? Did you start during the pandemic? Was this before?
It actually was slightly before the pandemic. So we started talking about this. And when I say we, I mean me and my wife, Nicole, in maybe December of 2019. So, a few months before the pandemic kicked off.
Okay.
And it really just started with me scrolling Instagram, looking for ways to jump into entrepreneurship. I always thought real estate would kind of be the way that we would jump in. My wife wasn't super excited about real estate. So I was trying to find something that kind of mixed the two. So I found a course online and I convinced her to take the course with me and to try to see if we could make this work. And we thought it was intriguing. And so we just decided to dive all the way in. And I mean, I could keep going through the story if you want, but we had to face some tough questions when we got to the pandemic, because we had gone through the course. We decided we wanted to do it. We built out our business plan. We started, open a business account, all those things you need to do to structure your business appropriately. Right. And then we were kind of in the looking phase. We were looking all over Houston for spaces that would work for us.
Yes.
And then things got wild right there in the February, March timeframe.
Right. And I absolutely love that. You touched on something. You said you started building your business from scratch. So you laid a foundation. You were looking for ideas that met in the middle with your wife. I love the fact that you guys are a power couple doing business together. That is amazing. And then you were like, okay, let's find something that meets in the middle, because it had to be something that y'all were interested in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes back to your second question. The only way I could sustain it is if my wife was there. There's no way that I could do all this on my own. And she is really the cornerstone that keeps things going for us, because I couldn't wear all those hats without her. And having her in the business as well has only amplified things. And I expect continued growth because of her efforts, and then what we can do because it's two instead of one.
Right. I absolutely love that. So with your background, right? So for those of you that don't know, Brandon's background is actually, you are an MBA recipient, correct?
That is correct.
Right. And then your spouse, she didn't go to school for business, but you two are managing this business together. So how has that journey been with one person having a background in business and then your wife jumping on board with you? Was this an easy transition for y'all? Did it just kind of like work out? Because I know when people are thinking about building their teams for their business, they're like, oh, I want the guy that has the MBA or this background, which is not always the case. A lot of your most talented folks come with a very diverse background.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point and a great question. I think, in business, you always have somebody that can cover your weaknesses, cover your six, as we would like to say from a military perspective. And I think very much so. I'm business minded, but she brings the creativity. She brings
Love
kind of
it.
the vision. She put the space together when you think of like visually how it looks, and that's what the people love when they walk in. They want a
Right.
space where they can see their event um, come to life. And so you need both sides, right? You got to have the business acumen, because if the numbers don't make sense, like you're not going to last for very long. But
Right.
on the other side, like if you don't have a vision, you don't have a space that people want to come to, like again, the business doesn't last very long. So, I think we have a good mix, and it doesn't come without challenges. Like we definitely have our fair amount of arguments about what the direction that we want to go with different things. But I think it's something that's been worthwhile for us so far.
Absolutely. And that's normal. And I appreciate your transparency on that because,
Yeah.
and that's the brilliance in having two or multiple minds in one plan. So, BienVenue, tell us about it. You host events. What type of events do you host? Who do you serve?
Yeah, so BienVenue is a event venue. We host a myriad of events, any and everything we're willing to host. Obviously we take a look at some things because all money isn't good money and all events aren't good events. So we do look at the
Exactly.
events that come through our space. Um,
Nice.
but we want to serve our community, and we live outside of Houston in the Humble, Texas area. So we serve
Awesome.
mainly people in, like 20, 30 minutes around, but we do have people that travel. So we want our space to be an open space for anyone and everyone that wants to host their wedding. Micro weddings have become very
Yeah.
big because of the pandemic and smaller crowds. But we host
Yeah.
pop-up shops. We're about to start hosting some
Cool.
spoken word events. We have dance classes. We have a church. So, we try to serve as many people as we can because we really see this as a community builder and a great chance for us to get to, kind of lay our foundation and lay our legacy in this community,
Yes.
because we want to stay here for a long time.
I love that. Absolutely love it. So you guys are marking your territory in the Houston, Texas area. That's such a growing area. So with that being said, and starting up your own venue and your event space, what were some of the challenges that you faced during the pandemic? Because you said that you started before, and now you're actually considering opening a second location. So for anybody, I think of an event space in the middle of the pandemic, right? Because we were going to host a conference there.
Yes,
um,
you were.
and most people would have pulled out, but you guys said, no, we're going to take this calculated risk. How was that? And what were the thoughts that came about?
I mean, many thoughts. I think we are fortunate in a lot of ways, and I think God puts you in places that you need to be at the right time. And I think we were always going to come back to Texas, and we came back after I finished my MBA, and that was really a blessing in terms of starting this business, because Texas is
Yeah.
a very much more open state in terms of the pandemic and kind of how long it stayed shut down and kind of the rules around what you could and couldn't do, which was something we definitely had to navigate and think about, because we didn't want to have a space open just for the sake of it being open to have our business running without
Right.
considering the community and the impacts that it could have negatively. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges once we got open. Before then, things were just slow. People were
Okay.
harder to get a hold of from a construction standpoint. A lot of people were just trying to figure out what the next
Interesting.
move was. When
Right.
you think about leasing a building, so we lease the space that we're in now. They were really just trying to figure out what made the most sense for them. Because you could see for lease signs everywhere, which really ended up working out in our favor. It became very much so a buyer's market, so to speak. So I think
Right.
that worked
Right.
out very, very well for us, because there are a lot of
Nice.
spaces even still today that are available because we're kind of going through this recovery period. So that's kind of part of the impetus, outside of our success in the first place to open another one. Is, I don't think there will be a better time for from a financial standpoint to open up the space. And I only suspect that the event crowd and the willingness to host events will continue to grow. So those two things mashed together just made all the sense of the world to us to continue to try to see what we can do in terms of growing and expanding.
I absolutely love the calculated risk because I mean, that is the fine difference between success and failure. Sometimes it's kind of like looking at your situation, your location, because if you were to compare your event space to like another state or, New Jersey or New York, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
they're all shut down. They're not willing to take the risk. But like you said, in Houston, Texas, it was pretty much wide open after a certain point. So you guys were able to
Yeah.
put in your mitigations. Cool. So
Yeah,
what success
absolutely.
you gain from that decision?
Can you ask that one more time?
What successes have you gained for stepping out and taking that risk?
Yeah, I think, I guess going back to the previous question, and then I'll jump on this one. And like, we couldn't have taken this risk without the support, again, of my wife and the family and our support system. But then also, like, I'm working full time. My wife's about to start working as well. So we have a foundation to kind of lean on if we need it. So I think that was another calculation. Worst case scenario, if it didn't work out, I had something to fall back on, something that I love and enjoy. So that was good. But going through this process, we've learned a lot just in the networking space. And hopefully I'm answering your question. I think networking and meeting and building amongst the community, friendships that we've gained with other small businesses that just want to grow. I'm the type of person that wants to see everyone win. So anything I can do to bring people along, I think is something we want to do. And I think will continue to be a part of our success story. And I think, honestly, it'll be a part of our expansion, because I think if we can show people kind of the steps in the way, they can grow with us as we expand this brand.
That's awesome. Awesome. I absolutely like thinking about your story and how how you operated in the military. I can speak on that because I've seen it, how you cared for
Yeah.
people and how you care for the people that work for you and how you treated people then is exactly how I see you transition that over to your business. So this is not new to me, guys. If you're listening to this business owner, this is who he is. And I'm glad that you're finding various ways to put that in your business, put that in your actual job in the military still. Now, would you say that you've aligned your business with everything that you're doing? Let's talk about your schedule. What does your day look like?
The day varies sometimes. I mean, normally I try to wake up and get some sort of workout in. I've been trying to work in mindfulness around that, whether it's just sitting silently
Nice.
journaling or gratitude. I'm not as good at that, but I'm better at working at, because we're naturally used to that
Cool.
from the military. In our backgrounds. But then it's typically helping with getting the kids ready if I have time. And then I jump into the full day-to-day. I recently started a new job with a company called Unite Us, which I love, again, as a state
Cool.
director. And we're building out a network here, which I know is not what we're here for, but something else I'm very passionate about. And now we've gotten to the point where our systems are pretty automated at BienVenue that I don't have to do too much during the day to ensure that it runs. Like, we do get calls here and there, and my
Yes.
wife answers those sometimes, but we have systems behind us that answer calls, that answer emails. So I'm not
Yes.
concerned unless there's like a fire going on at the business that we need to address. So that's been a big part of how I think we can scale, is like, it's got to be automated or it can't work for us because our schedule just doesn't allow for it. Because typically, on Mondays we have our company meeting. There's actually 4 of us now. We have a virtual
Nice.
assistant, and we have an executive director that helps out with events on site now. So we meet every Monday evening to talk about what's
Cool.
going on for the next week, to make sure everything's in line, and then move forward. But other than that, evenings are typically family time. I'm going to a basketball game, I'm going to a softball game, I'm going to a baseball game, or we're just playing with the kids. outside, inside, wherever. We have teenagers now, so it's harder to get them out of their shells. But we've found some creative
Yeah.
ways to make that happen recently. So yeah, that's my typical day.
Oh man, ladies and gentlemen, I'm such a geek because I literally research successful people, millionaires, billionaires, and a couple of things they have in common is their schedule, what they do in the morning. You exercise, you're practicing gratitude, you've put in systems to automate, you don't have to really waste too much time there. You can focus on your actual career and your family, and you're able to actually attend events. So this is something I'm curious to know, how long did it take you to put those practices in place? Because many people struggle with being able to have that consistency. When did you decide, like, virtual assistants? Yes.
I think, it goes back to my upbringing, honestly, and then going into a military academy. Like, all those things were kind of the building blocks of my discipline
Nice.
and consistency. That was, I guess, proliferated in the military. Very much how that schedule was, like
Yeah.
in the regiment that we had, because it was necessary to get everything in. So I approached this business the same way. I understood that I had a full-time obligation in my career, and then also with my family. So, I've tried to only take on things that wouldn't, it definitely takes time, but wouldn't take me away. Like, ultimately would bring me back to my family and be able to spend more. So I think, once we opened up in October, I think I wanted to be in the business as much as possible, learning the ins and outs. And then we
For
decided
sure.
a couple months in that we had to find ways to automate it so I could step back. And the pandemic really helped with that, because you see, I'm at home now, and I've worked from home since
Right.
last March. So I've been home over a year now. And without me being home, I wouldn't have been able to do what I've been able to do with the business. So again, God puts you in the right time and place.
Exactly.
And so that's allowed me to kind of be in the business and then think about how we can automate it, because I couldn't do that in my regular career, on the road, in the office. It just wouldn't be possible. So, we've continued to think about ways to automate it. We have a virtual assistant. We actually have a receptionist service as well that we use, that answers most of the calls. So yeah, we have a back end that is awesome. We're continuing
Yeah.
to learn and grow. And there's some things that need to continue to be tweaked, but I think it's going to allow us to do some things in the future that will provide some exponential growth in the next, hopefully, like 2 to 3 years.
For sure. You're definitely positioning yourselves to run corporate level operations. So, with not being tied down like that. So that is awesome. I feel like I can already see, like, how successful your path is going to be with this. So, you kind of mentioned your upbringing. Can you kind of share, when you were younger, were you the kid that was like, hey, when I get older, I want to have a business? Like, what was your thought process compared to now?
Way different than it is now. I was the kid that didn't really know what I wanted to do. I saw my parents always work hard. Like, I never saw my dad take a day off. My mom was a nurse, so she kind of played between staying at home trying to raise us and then doing a full-time nursing career. So she bounced back and forth. So I definitely grew up seeing the grind. So I think that was instilled in me pretty early on. But I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't even know, like, where I wanted to go to school, what I wanted to major in. And I'm talking like
Wow.
senior year, I kind of lucked out, and, I was successful in the athletic arena and also in the academic arena. And it laid a path for me to go to a good school. And from there, I met mentors and other people, and kind of watched them and some of my friend group kind of elevate. And yeah, from there, the idea is, once you're exposed to things, your mind kind of just expands.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So networking has been key for you. I
For
hear that
sure.
throughout your entire interview so far. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think networking, and then, exposing yourself to different environments. The military definitely did that for me, and I think for you as well.
Yes.
I spent some time in Korea. We spent some
Yeah.
time in Afghanistan together, and then I went to
Yeah.
several different bases across the U.S., and that kind of opened my eyes to the world. And
For
once I
sure.
saw what else what else was out there, that curiosity, has never left me, and I think it's led me to this place today.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just need exposure. And I absolutely like, I love your upbringing, hearing about your story. I didn't know about that. So that's pretty cool. And it's nice for
Yeah.
people to hear that, like, you don't have to be the person that's been like building business plans since you were six. You could, you could not really know what you want to do because you might have so many passions and then one day it just it works out. So I think you're definitely inspirational to people who are listening right now and who knew you in the past and see you now,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's, I hope that keeps you motivated. Now, what are some things that your event space, where do you see this going in the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we've kind of played around with this over the last few months, especially, seeing the success that we've seen. So I think we just want to continue to grow one by one for the next couple years. I think hopefully we'll get to 3, 4, maybe 5 spaces. And then we want to build something a bit bigger
Love
for
it.
weddings. My wife is very passionate about wedding planning. You should have seen her during our wedding, and she did it in a very short amount of time, which you could blame me
Nice.
for. So yeah, we would love to have a big venue somewhere outside of Houston, where people can go out and have that dream wedding out in land, trees, and water, a pond or something, and then also stay out there. So there's lots of opportunities with that. Because it could go beyond that with retreats and
Beautiful.
conferences, and the opportunities are endless. And then we've been toying around with other ideas around like franchising, or just thinking of other partnerships that we could do. I have a lot of friends that I'm connected with that are very interested in the venue space now that they've seen what we've been
Yeah.
able to do. So I'll continue to have those conversations. We'll continue to have those conversations with the people, and if it feels right and it makes sense, then we'll actually absolutely do it. But I think the goal is to continue to get our brand out there and see where it takes us.
Awesome. You are building opportunities for others, other
Yeah.
people. I love it. Oh man. It's just like as you start to say all the different things, I see the later. I'm like, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's all aligned. So I'm really
I
excited for
spend
you
a lot
guys.
of time thinking about it.
Yeah, that's cool, but it's something you love, so I know it doesn't feel, it's not draining. So that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
Um, so for people who are listening that may be thinking about starting a business, what kind of advice do you have for them?
Prepare now. If you want to start a business but you don't know what it is, start your LLC, open up a business account. Do small things to help build your business credit. I'm working with someone on our team now. She's doing the exact same thing. I know she has streams that are similar to ours, so I said, start now, don't wait. Because when you think about businesses, especially in our community,
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of the insights, knowledge, history, funding that some other communities might have. So if you don't start now, you'll just be that much further behind the power curve. So start now. Read books. You should always have a goal. You should always have a stack of books. You see some books behind me. Like I have too many books that I want to read that I won't. I know I won't get to this year, but I'm always continually trying to find ways to expand my knowledge and expose myself to different things, and then just commit to something. And it
Awesome.
could just be learning at first and trying to figure out what your business is. But that foundation will eventually lead you to a person or to an idea that you will expand upon, and it'll become yours. And once you hold on to that, or once you grab onto that seed, I mean, you can't help but, kind of fertilize it and make it grow, because you'll become somewhat obsessive, which is, we could talk about balance maybe as well, because I think that's something obviously to consider. But that's kind of where you want to get to.
Yes.
Um,
That's great advice. I was going to ask you about the balance thing because, ladies and gentlemen, the other day I was like, yeah, you just got to create balance. And you're like, yeah. But I liked your answer. You were like, but honestly, like creating balance is very challenging. um,
yeah. Yeah, I think, to me, balance is kind of like a loaded word. Like it's not true balance is almost impossible, I think, ever to
I
achieve. I
agree.
think you have
Yeah,
to always be willing to sacrifice something, but do it
sure.
intentionally and say, hey, now for the next 90 days, I'm focusing on the business. Now for the next 90 days, I'm focusing on my family. And like, you should
Right.
always try to, fit things in when you can, because you can't ignore or you shouldn't. But that goes back to you and your values and what is important to you. But for me, it's not, and my wife can talk about it all day long. Like, she's the one that keeps me grounded and brings me back to that balance more often than not, because I'll stay here all night and just nug at an idea or something I'm trying to work through.
Right.
And she'll bring me back kind of into balance, because it's necessary, because you will burn out or you will ignore things that you actually find you do care
Yes.
about. So I think that's a good point as well. Like, I know everyone doesn't necessarily have a spouse, but you should have a mentor, an accountability partner, someone that can kind of keep you in check, not only to push you, but also to
For
reel
sure.
you in when it makes sense.
For sure, for sure. I agree with all that. You definitely have to have someone that you can, bounce ideas off of. Like you said, hold you accountable, but that's going to pull you away and say it's okay to relax today. It's okay to,
Yeah.
step away from that today.
Yeah.
Wow. Very, very good advice. Now, if there are people listening based in Texas, for example, you don't have to be in Texas, right? Because I'm all the way in Baltimore. And whenever things with my partner come together, we're going to be hosting an event in Texas, right? So we're going to be coming from Baltimore. If anybody wants to host an event at your venue, how can they contact you? What's the best way?
Two ways. The easiest way is just go to bienvenuehouston.com, send us an email, send us a message. We'll be happy to respond and get you set up for success. You can also follow all our social media pages. On Instagram, it's at bienvenue_events. On Facebook, just search BienVenue Events, and you can find us there. We respond to any and all things. So yeah, I would love to host any and everyone. I'm excited for when, Deb, you come have your first conference here. Maybe it'll
It would be
be at our venue out in the country. Yeah, the opportunities are really endless. If you can dream it, we hope we can bring it to you in our space.
Ooh, love it. Love, love, love it. Guys, step out. If you want to definitely network and take your events to a different location, you should definitely check them out. Beautiful, beautiful space. Awesome. Before we close things out, do you have anything else that you would like to share with your listeners or anything else about your business that I didn't touch on?
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of tidbits, I guess. I mean, first, let me shout out Nehemiah Davis. He's the one that has the course that I took. It's Event Space Secrets. If you're interested, definitely recommend it. I'm happy to talk about event spaces till I'm blue in the face. So you can always hit me up as well. But then also, like, find something and go after it. The sooner you quit, the further you are away from reaching your dream. So don't quit.
For sure.
Sometimes it means you have to pivot. Sometimes, maybe event spaces isn't our ultimate goal and dream. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. But I know I will consistently and continually work towards generational wealth, economic freedom, working when I want to work, not because I have to work. It is such a
Yes.
beautiful thing to see an invoice or a check come in, a notification saying that we made money while I'm at a basketball game. Like, those
Yes.
times have happened over the last 6 months. And, it's very hard to kind of put into words what that means, because it's been years of work. Like, this just didn't happen. Like, the event space itself happened pretty quickly, but the work behind it
Right.
has been years in the making, even from before the time that we knew each other or met each other in the military. So yeah, start now, get going, and don't quit, and find people. I guess, the last thing I guess I'll say, like, you are I don't know I'm going to mess up this term, but you are kind of the average of the 5 people that you hang around with. So if you're hanging around with some people that aren't doing things that you see yourself doing in life, you might need to change your circle, because you can work to change your circle, i.e., help the people around you elevate, or sometimes you need to change your circle, i.e., change the people
Yeah.
that you hang out with. And that's a tough conversation and a tough thing to do sometimes, but if you have goals and dreams for not only yourself but for your family, in the end, I think you won't regret that decision to do it.
Yeah, I agree. That challenging yourself is always nerve-wracking, but that is definitely where your results reside, for sure.
Yeah,
Outside of your comfort
absolutely.
zone and stepping out. You touched something real quick. We're getting ready to wrap it up, but I think it's important to share. When you guys decided to open up a event space, right, and the pandemic
Hmm.
came, and in that moment you decided either to push forward or to let it go, what was that, not the decision point, but what inside of you said continue to move forward?
I think it starts with a belief in myself, and a belief in us. I know that when I put my mind to something, I can make it work. Um, again, it might not be the exact dream or vision that I have, but I know that if I continue to push forward, then good things will happen eventually. So, I got to a point where, we had already committed to do the work and put the business plan together, and we had started to look. So I said, we're going to see this to fruition. And I don't know where it may lead us, but I know that if we continue to push and do it in the right ways, that, some fruit will be born at some point. So that was really just the mindset. Like, I know that we had put in the work. My wife and I, and she dedicated herself to it. So I thought that, it only made sense to see it through.
Yeah, for sure. So two key points out of there, gems, guys. Belief in a business plan. Believe in a business plan. So I'm so excited for both of you. You guys are doing wonderful things. Team White, continue to wow us, continue to motivate us. We're supporting you. And again, guys, do not hesitate to reach out to BienVenue and book your next event with them. You will not be disappointed. It's beautiful. So thank you
Absolutely.
guys for tuning in to Business as Usual. Thank you, Brandon, for being a guest on the show. So excited.
Thank you for
Me
having me.
much. No problem. You guys have a good night. Happy Monday.